I got a new computer. I really was living with my binder clip computer, and I got a new computer, and I got whistles in it that I wanted, except, and I didn't realize it till I got home, and I hate it. I absolutely hate it. And you may see videos in my poor quality computer again, because I hate this. I hate it. It's got everything I wanted in it. It's an inch smaller. And the keyboard doesn't have a, a calculator pad, a separate numeric pad, and it's driving me crazy. And during this video, but it goes into screensaver mode in the middle of videos. So all of a sudden, the lighting really dims. So we'll see what happens. I'm going to try and fix that too. But this new computer that I spent more money on than I would have ever spent on anything in my entire life, that I don't have the money to spend on. It's a luxury item that I really did till Christmas to splurge, but there were sales, and I thought I would just went to look, and the sales guy talked me into it, and it wasn't, and all my stuff was loaded in, and I went to do the numbers, and I realized the keyboard was this small, and the number back pad was missing, and then I tried a video, and the lighting kept going shorter, so it's cutting off my head, and oh. But anyways, uh, as you can tell, it is cutting off my head. So, what can you do? And the screen is shorter. Everything is shorter. Let's see. You can't even see my pal anymore. Um, yes, ma'am. I'm sitting in front of a crackling fire. We can pretend we're in front of a crackling fire. Yes, it's the middle of July. That we're sitting down with a good book in the middle of a crackling fire. And drinking hot chocolate. A good book to read. Yes, ma'am. Uh, so this is a test. We'll see if this works. I don't know if I like it or not. I really don't like it. It's driving me crazy. Um, so please check out recaps on Friday. If then episodes on Friday. I've done a couple of really good ones, and no one has watched. No one. I did all this work on Native American. No one watched. I did all this work on an black authors, and I found all these different variety of books, not just romance, but vampires and sci-fi. A whole slew. And explained all the art, the stuff where I did it. And then I've done, if no one is watching, no one is watching these really good videos. Yes, ma'am. Here. And don't forget, Flashback Mondays, where I talk about all the books in this magazine. And lately I've been getting it. I usually do the top 5 picks and going overboard. And the past few have been 60 or 70 books. So I'm getting a little carried away with that. And don't forget my daily book reviews. We read and we're talking about Victoria Thompson at this time. J.R. Ward, Black Dagger Brotherhood at this time. James Patterson's Alex Cross series at this. And then I'm sneaking in a few others here and there, and my if thens. So I hope you'll tune in for all of those. Today we are doing Miss Needy. I want your attention this morning because you were gone yesterday. And and Victoria Thompson, Murder in Morningside Heights. And we have our first. Oh, I wanted to look this up. Wait a second. Okay, so we have our first LG. We have our first gay, female relationship. Now, if you've been following me with Rice Bowen, Molly is our did a little bit of a detective there, and she's married to Sullivan. He's a cop. Her two best friends, Gus and Sid, are also our LGBT relationship. What are you looking at? There's something awfully interesting here. I don't know what it is. Um, so she uh in this day and age, now I did not know this, but in this particular time frame, it's known as a Boston marriage, a non-traditional long-term relationship between two women and are usually middle or upper class, financially independent, and live together for companionship and support. So that's a new term in this book. I don't like this lighting at all. My house lighting is horrible to begin with. I've always complained about my lighting. It's still cutting off my head. Book 19 in where are my glasses? I am not doing very well today, am I? I thought the other cat. Anyways, where was I? So we have our first gay relationship between two families in this book. And it's interesting and kinda a menage a trois, kinda sorta. And apparently we had two females that were they spent 20 years together and they were 20 years each other's besties and lovers or whatever. We don't know the intimate relationships, but they were this close. And a young little lady walks in, and all of a sudden, we're again, but it's the little lady and the other lady. The other lady goes to the second lady, "You go and go have your own bedroom, and I'm taking her into my bed. She's replacing you in my bed." And there was some friction there. There was some very unwanted friction there. This, I hate this computer. Where is she? She's over there. Um, so let's get back to our story here with my head cut off. Um, Book 19 in Murder in Morningside Heights, and Frank has opened his own detective agency. We should back up here a little bit for if you have my previous night 18 videos on this book, please go and do so. I'll usually I start. Sarah Brandt was a midwife. She is taking a small. I'm gonna get back into it a little bit in the future books, and Frank was a detective with the New York Police Security Department. I'm so used to saying that with the Eve Dallas books, but he was with the department. Eve Dallas was with the New York City Police Security Department. And yes, ma'am. Uh so and but because from Catherine's relatives, Catherine was an orphan that Sarah had adopted. What are you going after my glasses for? Had adopted from the Mission Orphanage that she got involved in, and Maeve, uh, who has also become a family member and a very important part of the family. So it's Maeve, Catherine. Maeve is nursemaid to Catherine. She's also going to start helping out with the detectiving soon. And because Catherine's gonna start going to school, Brian. Oh, I completely forgot. I'm 10 minutes. Welcome to the D. Louise book series. It's nice to meet you. I'm Christina Kristina. This is the D. Louise book series where we read books and talk about what's going on here. But I'd appreciate it if you'd hit the like and subscribe. Uh, but so Brian is deaf. I was learning sign language, and I'm gonna do a video on there's a lot of stories with deaf people in them, so I wanted to do then on some authors like that. And we're also reading another book series with a deaf. Well, he's not deaf, but he's mute, and he also relies on sign. Is John Matthew from the Black Dagger Brotherhood. So we've got 2 cases of using sign language here. Yes, ma'am. All right, I'm just gonna do this. Sarah and Frank have gotten married. It took quite a long time, and it was thanks to a, a colleague of Victoria Thompson's idea on how to fix it. She had put so many roadblocks in the way of Frank and Sarah having any type of relationship, and one of her classmates solved it, and she book. And I love her little author summaries at the end. Oh, and I should point out here, I always point out in the beginning, spoilers, lots and lots and lots and lots of everything. I don't tell you who done it in a who done it book, but I will spoil all of the characters in this book. Is what I do. So, Frank has opened a detective agency, and Gino is working with him. As you know, Gino and Maeve have a slightly flirtatious relationship at this point. Nothing serious. Then, of course, and then Brian, and then we have Frank's mom, Mrs. Malloy. We don't see too much of her in this book. We also don't see too much of Mrs. Ellsworth, but we do have a small part. And of course, Sarah's mother and father, Felix and Elizabeth Decker, who have, if you read the last book, when Sarah and Frank were on, Mr. Decker, Elizabeth, and Gino and Maeve solved a mystery all by themselves. So they've all gotten into it. They've all started this detectiving. It's become contagious throughout the family. So, we've got this new thing, and it's explained here. It's so cute. I have to share. You know that. You know that. Frank Malloy, confidential inquiries. Frank hesitated a moment of his name in gilt letters on the frosted glass of the office door. The confidential inquiries had been his mother-in-law's idea. Elizabeth Decker felt the detective agency was somehow and might attract the wrong type of client. Frank wasn't sure what the wrong type of client might be for a private detective agency, but he was more than willing to give his new business at least a ability. I love these books. I do. So, Mr. and Mrs. Northrop, his first clients, to find out who killed their daughter, Abigail. Abigail had gone to a normal school, and it said the normal. If you watch my New Year's Eve video, you see her identity. She isn't going off as much as she used to. but she is going off during all of my videos, regardless of what time of day I do a video. She's going off. Schools were started after the Civil War, and they were established to train people to be teachers and to set standards across the teaching. The Normal School of Manhattan is a fictional creation and is an amalgamation of Hunter College, formerly the Normal College of New York, City of New York, and Barnard College. Women opened after the American Civil War. The loss of so many men in the war left a surplus of women with no hope of finding a husband and the need to support themselves. The colleges gave women the skills to have productive teachers and social workers. And we'll read more about that later. So, Frank goes to it apparently, Abigail had been a student at the school, and when she finished and got her degree, whatever, she was, majoring in French, and apparently really good at French. And so they hired her to be a French teacher, and the French teacher on staff. There were very, very few women teachers and men, and the students were mostly women, and or all women, should I say? And he claims when interviewed later he didn't mind someone teaching the beginner's course, and he could maintain teaching the superior courses, the second and third year students, and could teach the first year students. He felt that she was qualified to do that. So I skipped ahead. So we have this Frank goes to investigate, and apparently the body was taken to Doc Haynes. Doc Haynes is our coroner, and the young lady was stabbed. Crime of passion, should we say, crime of opportunity. Our custodian was fixing the gazebo out in the back, and was out there when he got distracted by something else. And when he went back to pick up his tools, he discovered Miss Abigail. She had been stabbed with a screwdriver in the face. How awesome, beautiful, how painful that was for her. So we see Tobias a few times. Then we get a hint to happen in future books. A little seed here of potential storylines for future books. Mrs. Kelly's mission for Sarah, and apparently a young lady has become a member of the mission. She had gone there for help. They usually do not take ladies. There's usually other places that take ladies with child, but she didn't tell them she was with child, and she was probably small enough and thin enough to get away with it until she wasn't small enough and big enough to get. And so, because Sarah is a midwife, they call her in to do medical eval on the girl. And they believe the girl when she's XYZ far along. It turns out she's way farther along than she originally stated. She must have been quite small. So, and then what Sarah is handling that, although she will start handling this other case too. Frank goes to the normal school to investigate. He speaks with the president. And then Abigail had been a student, and she was good enough that she was offered a job teaching. And she lives in a house off campus with two other ladies, Mrs. Billingsley and herself, and then Bathsheba is the housekeeper. And like I had said before, Miss Wilson and Miss Billingsley had your relation. And here comes Miss Abigail. And uh, Miss Billingsley got the heave ho to the separate bedroom. And Abigail got the welcome here. And we later discover that Miss Wilson's feelings were very strong for Abigail and that she had given Abigail a ring. But Abigail didn't wear the because then people would want to know who her fiance was, and she couldn't say that she was in love with another woman, so she hid the ring on it below her dress. She wore it, the love. And so we've discovered when we first start this book, Mrs. Billingsley has taken to drinking because she's so being rejected by Miss Wilson. And Bathsheba has a lot to say. She gives some good information. We also discover that Abigail was with a few her family and a potential suitor, and the potential suitor had offered to marry her, and thinking about it as a cover. Oh, what's that term? Oh, I can't think of it right now. Uh, when you're gay and you don't want people to know, or you don't want your family to know, and you take the opposite sex there at your parents' house. Bride. It's bride. I think. I forget what the term is. I have to remind me of what the term is. So, I don't know if she was thinking that way. We don't know what happened there. But we do know that the gentleman was just using it as an excuse for his family to leave him. Though there might have been more there, we don't get into it. Gino does a really good job in this book of detecting. We discover a lot more about the family, but we also have a small Mrs. Ellsworth moment, and I love Mrs. Ellsworth, and I'm gonna do at the end of this. We'll see after Rose Hill. We'll see how I feel, but if there's enough. But I'm gonna do a Miss Ellsworth video, and this is gonna be in it. Your hair is getting very long, Miss Ellsworth. And you know Miss Ellsworth was Sarah Brandt's neighbor and who spent a lot of time with Sarah in the previous books. And her character was a huge portion of the books. And she's gotten a little smaller now, but she will get bigger again in future books. But she's taken a backstage role in the last couple books, and it's kind of been sad not to. So it's nice to get this little visit from her in this book. Your hair is getting very long, Miss Ellsworth told Catherine. Their neighbor had come by early, and Sarah had been visiting with her in her private. Maeve brought Catherine in to join them. Maeve says it's straggly, Catherine said. She's going to cut it today. Oh my, Mrs. Ellsworth said, looking over at Maeve in alarm. You can't cut her hair today. Why? With perfect innocence, although Sarah noted she didn't so much as glance in Sarah's direction, knowing they would both probably burst out laughing at what was most certainly one of Mrs. superstitions, because you can only cut a person's hair on Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday. Do barbers know this? Maeve asked. Mrs. Ellsworth waved the question away. If you cut someone's Friday or Saturday, you will never grow rich. Oh, so I'm the one who has to be careful, Maeve said. But what about Sunday? Best never be born than Sunday shorn, Mrs. Ellsworth. And you must burn the clippings so She glanced at Captain, who was staring at her wide-eyed. She obviously decided not to complain in front of the child. The potentially dire consequences of leaving hair clippings unburned. Make a mess. Burn them, Maeve said. Have you ever smelt burnt hair? Of course I have. Sarah had to assume Mrs. Ellsworth had been burning her hair clippings her entire life. You could burn them at ease, teased Maeve. So, everybody gets involved in solving the murder. Frank and Sarah and Maeve and Gino. Everybody does their little detectiving. Although Maeve not so much in this book, but she will in future books. Maeve has a good insight. She has street smarts. Um then another little hinting about future endeavors with the series. Spoiler person, you gotta live with it. Um this is Frank's idea, and it will come to fruition again later on, but I wanted to point this is the right page. Oh, this is with Gino. There's another one later, but this is the one for Gino. Gino says, do you need, Sarah says, do you need me for anything? No, thank heaven, Malloy said. You've done more than enough already. For some reason, I thought having a detective agency wouldn't be involved in the investigations anymore. Was he smoking something? Having a detective agency means she's going to be involved more because she can get involved more. Cops aren't there to say she can't be involved more. Um, Sarah had to smile at that. Do you expect me to sit home and be bored? Maybe you should be a midwife again, Miss Malloy, Gino said, earning Malloy. I do miss my old vocation, Sarah admitted, but I don't miss being called out in the middle of the night and being away from home for days at a time. Maybe the ladies could come to you, Gina suggested. You've got room enough here. Sarah is perfectly happy being a wife and mother, Malloy said, in what he probably thought was the last word on the subject. How very progressive of you, said. Malloy turned to Gino. That was not a compliment. You gotta love it. You just do. Um, Frank's idea, and I'll just share this before we leave it. There is a second murder in the book, and there is also, Miss Abigail had discovered a secret about one of the professors at the college, and she was about to reveal it. And their job and standing and reputation at the college, and that is why she was killed. I will not tell you who did it, and I will not tell you who else was murdered. There is a little excerpt at the end of the book, and I'm gonna spoil it because it's the future ideas for future books. Um, you, Mrs. Malloy, he asked, his eyes narrowing as he studied her face. What do you mean? I mean you should see yourself right now. Sarah touched her hair self-consciously. Is something wrong? No, something. I haven't seen that look on your face in a long time. What are you talking about, Malloy? I'm talking about the look you get when you deliver a baby. It's like, well, you look real satisfied, like you've just done God a favor or something. That's blasphemous thing to say, she scolded him. I'm sure it is, but it's also the truth. Delivering babies makes you happy. Sarah sighed. Yes, it does. I've missed it, but I can't go back to being a bit midwife. She shook her head. Maybe you've forgotten how babies come at all hours of the day and night, and how I'd be called all over the city and be away from home for days at a time. What about those maternity homes? What about them? Print there. Was it? She never thought about it. I suppose it's easier because the women are right there when they go into labor. You must have midwives who live there too, so they don't have to travel around the city. I suppose so. Those homes where they had midwives and the women could stay and have babies and keep their babies and get the help they needed. Malloy, what are you talking about? I'm talking about the kind of place this girl Hannah needed and you couldn't. Talking about a place where you could go to deliver babies, but sometimes, but there'd be other midwives when you couldn't. You're serious, aren't you? She asked him in amazement. I might be. I haven't had much to do since we got here except watch the snow. The snow isn't very interesting. We'll have to spend the night because they're at the mission because it snowed. It was a blizzard. So that's the end of our story, and that's potential hints for future storylines. And so you'll have to read the book to find out who killed Abigail and why she was killed and what she knew, what the big secret was, and how Miss Elizabeth Decker helped solve that. You could also watch my Star Trek recaps on Friday, my if thens on Fridays if you like this author, maybe you like that, and my flashback Monday every Monday, and 252 books in it. I'll probably do 60 or 70 in here. I've got them all. So please hit the like and subscribe. Let me know I'm doing a good job. Thank you.